welcome back to Been There, Watched That. Myself, Justin, and my two compatriots here in the movie review space, Dave and Joe.
I gotta say, that's a pretty good introduction. When you started out with my two, I was like, time out. Where's this going? I'm just happy we're compatriots. It could have been anything.
I hesitated a little bit.
Yeah, that's why I was like, time out. This is gonna go bad right off the introduction.
Yeah.
Bad for you and I, Joe.
I know.
Justin was in the clear.
Yeah, but yet Justin was starting out, for anybody, if this is the first time they're listening to it, it's like, okay, these guys are going to be professional. And then, like, yeah, here come Dave and I just banging trash cans and making a racket.
Banging trash cans. Here we go. Burning couches, banging trash cans.
There we go.
All right, Justin.
A
Sorry.
third of the way to 100. We're at 33. Guys.
Really? Nice.
Wow.
BeenThereWatchThat.com. Go check it out.
Yeah.
Get caught up on all the movies we reviewed in the past, and reach out to us. Social media, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. Just type in BTWT Pod, and let us know, some ideas of things we could review on here. And like Joe always says, if there's something you think we got totally wrong, that no, that movie was no good and you guys thought it was, or vice versa, let us know on there. This week's pick is Willow from 1988, and this is coming from a list of fan-submitted movies.
Yes.
And this was just one that I recognized and said, hey, that was a childhood favorite of mine, so let's revisit it, see if it's any good, and see what these two guys who've never seen it think of it.
So, Justin, and you can tell me that you want to save this question for later. So I'm going to ask it. I'm going to ask it. So if you're afraid it's going to spoil anything, tell me you want to deter till later in the show.
Uh-huh.
But do you still have? And I don't want details right now because I'm afraid that will ruin it. But do you feel the same as you did as a kid, or did we just pee on the fire of your childhood and it's gone? The magic is gone.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised how much I remembered of it. There weren't a whole lot of surprises or anything that was like, that is cheesier than I remember. A little bit of that. Definitely a little bit of that's a little cheesier than I thought, that I didn't notice as a kid. But overall, the whole arc of the story, the way it moves along, pretty familiar to me and seemed to hold up for the most part. Minus some of the CG.
Yeah. So mostly your childhood memory is still well intact. We didn't completely.
Yep. Nothing's been totally destroyed or anything by this rewatch.
Now you told us last week that your sister was going to join in. You was going to have her watch it. Did she watch it? And
she's on a whole different time zone. So
okay.
Right now it would be 6:30 in the morning over there. But
yeah.
I'm gonna text her anyways.
Joe and Dave want to know.
Yeah. Nothing like early text in the morning. Huh. So anyway, welcome to our show. We start off with a bang. Joe and I are compatriots.
Yes.
Which is a positive, pleasant note. A surprising pleasant note.
Yes.
Yeah. That could have went the other way for sure.
Yes, very quickly.
And I messed up. I told you guys this was on Netflix. Hopefully you figured it out. It was not.
Oh, I watched it.
Well, I was getting ready to text you.
Amazon Prime.
Yeah, I started Sunday night, and it said 3 hours. Like, I'm going to hang Justin.
Well,
I'm not sitting 3 hours.
An hour of special features at the end.
Yeah, so I did find it on Disney Plus. I was like, okay, it's only 2 hours. I can watch this. But I thought, if this is 3 hours, I'm going to cry foul right before we get started here.
Did you watch any of the special features, Dave?
No.
Yeah. After the credits roll on Amazon Prime, for those that can't get enough and want to see behind the scenes a little bit, they look at some of the early CG. Those computers, they pretty much invented a program to do that morphing scene where he's trying to transform the sorceress into human, and she changes to different animals.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Apparently that was
that's cutting edge.
Groundbreaking. No one had ever seen anything such like that. So.
Yep.
Right,
because I read a little bit about that, and they talked about how they used to just cut to an animal, cut away, cut to an animal, cut away. So it was real blocky, I guess.
Yeah.
And this morphine let it kind of blend as it went through.
Yeah.
So pretty cool stuff to see.
Yeah.
1988. That was.
1988. Yeah.
I will say, and then maybe Joe, you can jump into what the heck this movie's all about. But some of because there's these things called brownies, little people, little tiny. They.
Yeah.
Some of the shots were there right beside a full-size person that's just like so clearly CG. You can almost see like the green screen behind it. It's like, oh man, that looks kind of bad. You know, that stood out to me.
Yeah, 1988.
Yeah.
Yeah, you kind of have to give it a little pass on that kind of stuff. Now, The Door, on the other hand, you know.
The Door?
No, what was it? What was the one we just watched? That was.
Oh yeah, The Room.
Yeah, The Room.
Yeah.
Sorry, yeah, The Room. The
Oh,
Room,
boy.
on the other hand.
Did you ever finish that one?
I never went back. But I honestly want to go back and watch and finish it all. I just have not gotten around to that. Dave's going.
Just let it go. Just
I
let
don't
it go.
know. It's almost like a train wreck. It's one of those.
Oh, jeez.
I don't want to see it, but I can't turn away from it. It's just like it just.
Just let it go. Let's focus on good movies. Anyway, why don't you give us a rundown on Willow, Joe?
All right.
We've jumped all around here, but you know,
That's how we operate.
Willow, 1988.
So a baby girl is discovered in a river by Renan and Mims, the children of Willow Youthgood, a dwarf farm. Offgood, a dwarf farmer and magician, and the baby girl is taken into the care of Willow's family. But when a terrifying dog-like creature attacks Willow's village whilst tracking down the baby, Willow consults the village council and wizard, the High Old One. The High Old One gives Willow a task, and Willow leaves the village and embarks on the task to give the baby girl to a responsible person. But Willow soon learns that the baby is Laura Danon, the baby girl destined to bring the downfall of evil sorceress Queen of Morda.
Yeah, Bad Morda. That's how I said it.
Joined by his ally swordsman Mad Mardigan and sorceress Finn Rizal and brownies Frangine and Rule.
The brownies.
Willow takes it upon himself to protect Alora from Queen Bavmorda, who intends on to kill Alora and prevent Alora from fulfilling her destiny. And Willow and his allies are pursued by Queen Bavmorda's daughter, Sorsha, and the evil commander of Queen Bavmorda's army, whom are searching for Alora to bring her back to the castle.
Just for context, you know, Willow is a very short, a 3-foot person. He lives in this village of other. So it's like the baby that is discovered is called a Dakini, which is a tall human person.
Yeah,
so it's like these people that live far away, like two different. So you know, a Hobbit sort of situation.
Yeah, where the smaller people don't have anything to do with the Dakini, which is the normal sized human, I guess, and yeah, so they do a lot of traveling apparently.
Yeah.
Which is, you know, and anyway, it's an adventure movie.
Yeah. A quest.
Yeah, quest. It is a quest.
There is
undertake a quest.
That's another thing I kind of noticed. Like some of the timeline stuff, like I mean, the baby's born and then the lady runs away with her. It seems like
she ran by
years,
everybody.
2 or 3 years pass that this lady's like running away.
Yeah.
But then I don't know. Sometimes it seems like the quest they're on, they're able to cover way more distance.
Yeah, because I mean, it's kind of like a newborn baby, and she runs past everybody to get out with the only newborn baby they're interested in.
Yeah.
And then she puts it in the river, and the newborn baby, you know, after she walks through the snow and over the mountains, puts it in the river. The dogs track her down, and then the baby is older.
I know. The dogs track her down like 3 years later.
Yeah, when Willow finds the baby, it's no longer like a newborn. It's a infant.
Has a head full of hair.
Yeah.
Total little time warp there that doesn't make any sense.
No.
Yeah.
Not at all.
But we're just gonna look past that, I guess. Yeah, it's like, oh, chase her, and then the dogs chase her and find her, but the baby's 3 years older.
Yeah.
It's like, what? That was a little weird.
So you guys ready for a casting call?
You bet, yeah.
Oh yeah.
All right. So the movie star is Val Kilmer, and he plays Mad Mardigan, and Mr. Kilmer's known for The Doors and Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. Warwick Davis plays Willow, and Mr. Davis is known for the Harry Potter movies and the movie about the biopic about Ray Charles, the movie Ray. Pat Roach plays General Kale, and he's known for Conan the Destroyer and Indiana Jones, Raiders of the Lost Ark. Phil Fondacaro plays Vonneker, and he's known for Star Wars, Return of the Jedi, The Black Cauldron, and Sabrina the Teenage Witch. Tony Cox plays Von Kerr Warrior, and he's known for Bad Santa, Spaceballs, and Me, Myself, and Irene. Kevin Pollak is a repeat offender on our show.
Yeah, where did we see him?
I have the movie.
One of these movies we reviewed, I remember seeing him in. But
Yes, he plays Rule, and you can go back to our archives and check out our review on The Usual Suspects.
Yes.
And he's also played in The Whole 10 Yards and A Few Good Men. And Rick Overton plays Frangine, and he's known for Groundhog Day, Eight-Legged Freaks, and Beverly Hills Cop. So, short casting call on this one. Not a lot. I mean, a lot of these actors I've seen in other things, but not a real star-studded feature film.
This was kind of Ron Howard's big break, the way he describes it. He got to work under George Lucas. This is a George Lucas production, and this is all George Lucas's story that he came up with.
And it's kind of like what I read about it. It was, he's following up Return of the Jedi and just another spin-off almost. I don't know. There's a little bit of criticism it seemed to be thrown around about, just another spin-off of The Hobbit and Star Wars. Same storyline as some of the...
When was Star Wars? The 70s? Late 70s?
Yeah.
And this is like the late 80s?
Yeah.
Return of the Jedi was in 1983.
And my understanding was they had high hopes that maybe this could be a major blockbuster, but didn't quite do the numbers they were hoping for. I mean, made money, but not Star Wars type of thing.
Well, I think they think part of the issue was the opening weekend. It went up against a lot of big heavy hitter movies. Let me pull up that.
Yeah.
Because I had the list last night and I don't remember.
Crocodile Dundee 2 was coming out, and that was pretty popular then, I guess. It was going up against that and some others.
Yeah, it faced... Okay, yeah, here we go. George Lucas had hoped the film would have earned as much money as E.T. did back in 1982, but here's what it had to go against the opening weekend. Crocodile Dundee 2, and Big, and Rambo 3.
Big. I just watched that recently.
Really?
I like Big.
What a interesting movie.
So no wonder it kind of fell on its ear. I mean, you're talking 3 classic movies right there. Hard competition to open up on.
Yeah. Man. Okay. Rambo 3?
Well, it's part of the Rambo series. Well, okay, Dave, you say that here we are almost 40 years later, but you got to think this was opening weekend.
Yeah. I just mean Rambo 3 for real.
Right, yeah.
Wow.
What'd you think of the pacing, Joe?
Wait a minute. When was the original Rambo, if that was Rambo 3? And
is the original one called First Blood?
Yeah.
Yeah, 1982.
Really? Doesn't seem like that long ago.
Were you bored out of your mind, Joe, or did you feel like it moved along a little?
Yeah, what are we talking about here, Joe?
Well, honestly, this type of movie is not my forte.
Right. But like the magic and the fantasy and the
it had
wizards and
I've not watched any of the movies, but it kind of gave me the mind of like The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings, those types of movies.
Yeah.
Which again, those are not my forte, but I wasn't like sitting there watching the clock tick by as I was watching. So, not my forte, but I was entertained.
I thought a couple funny moments, but also a few that could have been left out. That seemed like every once in a while they had to like break in with a little bit of gag.
Yeah, like the one. Well, and the one I remember is when Mad Mardigan and Val Kilmer. He looks at the girl and he flips his sword to look fancy, and then he falls. And it was obvious to me that was a staged fall. Like, it wasn't even close to an accidental slip. It was just like, oh, okay, now he's down. Haha, look like a goof.
I did think it was funny when he fell off the sled, or the shield that they're using as a sled, and then he looks back and there's a huge snowball with his feet sticking out of it.
Yeah.
Definitely a gag, but I kind of got a chuckle out of it.
Yeah.
Totally unrealistic, but kind of funny, too.
Yeah.
But, yeah, the brownies... like you said, Kevin Pollak, and then there's this one other guy. I think he's a French guy, but they're these little, tiny little...
Fit in the
almost like
palm of your hand,
in
guys.
the cupboard type size, and they're just they'll
How do they get from place to place so fast? That's what I
Right.
want to know.
Well, they just hit you right on whatever's going through it.
Well, they got left behind a couple of times, and then they show back
Yeah.
up, and I'm
Yeah.
just like, there's no way those
They-
cats.
they pop in with little lines sometimes that kind of got old after a little bit.
Well,
I thought.
they hitched a ride with the devil dogs and just jumped on the back of them and just rode in with them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember as a kid, those were pretty scary. Those devil dog things.
Yeah,
Which were two Rottweilers they had
yeah,
trained.
yeah. They was actual Rottweilers in rubber masks and suits.
But they look like huge evil rats or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm thinking, okay, so those the devil dogs, they didn't look scary enough, but you had to use actual Rottweilers. I was like, well, that was just taking a gamble there.
Yeah. Kind of under George Lucas's deal, though. I mean,
Yeah, but
look what he did with Star Wars.
I'm saying as far as a type of dog, Rottweilers aren't known as the most friendly animal.
Mhm. Yeah, they look brutish.
Yeah.
Burgle cut. It's like they're all little people, but this guy's like much bigger than
Yeah,
them. He's kind of
bigger.
the bully, and he's
Yeah.
saying, "Willow, I'm gonna take your land
Yeah.
basically because you're gonna fail. Your crops are never gonna get them planted in time." And he's got like early on, he's this kind of heel character that you're not supposed to like. That's picking on Willow. That then he gets puked on by the baby. Which is,
Yeah.
Yeah, this was the largest casting call at the time for little people, and they're estimating between 225 and 240 actors were hired for the film.
I think and at some point there was mention like, oh, you'll never get to that lake because there's this huge army, and then there's like 50 soldiers or something. I never saw like a huge army, but overall, I kind of appreciate that they're using like hundreds of extras for some of the battle scenes and stuff.
Yeah.
It's not they didn't throw CG in and try to make an army look big. Like there's definitely some.
Well, based on the CG that they did use, it probably didn't have the capacity to handle.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
$30
true.
million budget on this one.
That seems
Wow.
crazy.
35 million.
Yeah, for that time.
Yeah. Huh. Interesting. So what do you think, Joe? I mean, I know where I'm at with it, but did you get through it okay?
I
Are
did.
you okay, Joe?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like I said,
Well, and I'm only asking because you said a couple times this is not really your genre of movie.
Yeah, this is not my genre of movie. I will openly admit that. But like I said, I didn't hate it.
Yeah.
Now, Justin, I don't want. And I'm pointing to you because you said you loved this movie so much. So
As a kid.
that's
As a
why-
kid,
yeah,
as a kid, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I'm saying. You're kind of a kid at heart, Joe.
I know, but
How did you not like it?
well,
I thought you'd be overflowing with, this is so gushy. It's a good film.
Yeah, I'd be interested. What took it down a peg for you, aside from the whole genre itself? Was there anything that made you say,
Well, hold on. Are you a Star Wars fan? Do you like Star Wars?
not really.
Really?
Yes, I'm one of the few nerds that aren't real.
I
Big.
kind of thought Star Wars would be right up your alley.
Yeah,
All the computers, technology.
I just never really got into
Huh.
to that for whatever.
Why do you hate the Ewoks, Joe?
I
what
didn't
did
say
that
I
ever do
hated
to
them.
you? And that reminds me, Willow, the guy, what's his name, Warwick Davis.
Warwick Davis.
Yes.
Yeah.
As a child, he played an Ewok.
Yeah, that's George Lucas.
When he was like
That was
6
one
years
of the things
old
I
or
read
something.
was that George Lucas kind of wrote this with him in mind. Said, hey, when he gets a little older, he can play this role.
15
Yeah.
years later. Well, he was 18 then. He looks a little older than that.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was 17 when they started.
Wow.
During shooting, and George Lucas wrote this film after meeting Warwick on Return of the Jedi.
I thought he did a pretty good job. I mean,
Yeah.
just in terms of acting and like keeping things moving, and the little bit of interplay between he and Val Kilmer's character, Matt Mardigan. I thought for the most part it worked.
Yes, and I have to say, of course, I think I have the stigma of all these new quote unquote family films are so watered down and political correct and all that garbage that this even though it's a family film was rather refreshing
Yeah.
because you got a story. You didn't get all this garbage thrown into it and say, hey, it's a movie. No, that's not a movie. That's just garbage.
Well, and it's such a combination of Return of the Jedi, Snow White. You know, you got the bad. You got the good princess who has a bad mom who really reminded me of. I can't name any bad princess mom.
Yeah.
You know, bad queen.
Yeah.
Played the role really good in the movie here, but you know, and then you got the hero who's the scoundrel that's, you know, the loner that doesn't really fit in with the general army type deal, and then you got the captain of the army that's, yeah, you know, that's the stand-up guy who's trying to get the scoundrel to be the good guy because he's got the good guy in him.
Right.
You got the hero who's the underdog, and you know, and you got the bully. You got so many stories tied in. It's kind of amazing how they weaved it all together.
When the movie first started and they put the baby in the river and flowed down, it's like, now wait a minute, I've already seen this story. I know how it ends. It's in the Bible. And I thought,
that's interesting. You said I'd read
yeah, I thought, so help me, if they get the baby out of the river and it starts going down the same path as Moses in the Bible, you're not going to fool me. But then as soon when Willow finds the baby and takes it out of the river, then the story completely changes. Like, okay, now, because I thought, you're not going to tell me that this is some kind of new thing.
Yeah.
Because this is the same story I've read growing up. Don't tell me this is something new. And then it completely changes. Like, no, Willow is not part of the hierarchy. He's just a worker like everybody else. It's like, okay, now I can buy into the story. So I was very hesitant within the first few minutes when they started playing it out, and then when I seen the results, I was like, okay, that now it's an adventure. Now I'm in.
Yeah, this quote that pretty much goes right with what you're saying. You know, on Rotten Tomatoes, I just kind of scrolled through what some of the reviews are from critics. Willow borrows shamelessly from sources as varied as the Bible, Wizard of Oz, even Star Wars itself. So that's kind of what you guys are saying, that, oh, wow, this is a very familiar story, and they're just kind of running with it.
Yeah, because that's what I first thought was, I thought they was trying to rip off the story of Moses in the Bible and trying to pitch it as something new. And I was going to have big issues with that. It's like, this is not new, this is not original. But
that's one of the critiques I kept seeing was pretty predictable plot line in some ways, not a whole lot of surprises. But
I could see that, but then, like I said, when it started taking off, it's like, okay, they're using pieces of, and I never even gave it a thought of Wizard of Oz. That's a perfect, So now I can see the little pieces. Okay, they took a little from this story. That I have no objections to, because it gives you an adventure. Now, if it was, a play-by-play of, the story from the Bible or the Wizard of Oz or whatever, and just instead of the Tin Man, we'll call him George, and just instead of 10, he just walks around. It's like, if they do that, that's just a washed down, watered down version of a story that's already been told. Now, if you want to use a piece of that and make it something different, I'm all for it. So this was much better play out than I thought. I thought it was just going to be a remake of a story that's already been told and say, it's new. No, it's not new.
Interesting.
The plot grinds on to its predictable climax, with the viewer fully aware of what awaits long before the events unfold. Some of the, like on Rotten Tomatoes, 51% the critics gave it compared to 79% by the audience. Yeah, a lot of them, forced, formulaic, lacking any sense of magic.
I think it's easy to be a critic, especially now. Now, back then, I mean, I don't know. It seemed... I mean, if you go back and you watch the original Star Wars, jerky, and, you'll spot errors and stuff, but, I mean, back in then, that was amazing.
Yeah. Well,
and the way they had to do it was amazing.
Well, and you got to think at that time, if you'd go to the theater, you just go and watch it, and then you talk about it until it came out on video. You didn't have time to sit and critique it and look for all the ahas and, did you see that kind of stuff?
Yeah, because, I mean, that's what amazed me. I didn't think it was bad in that aspect because of the you got to keep it in the right context.
Yes.
It's an 80s movie.
Yes.
They didn't have huge computers powering this. They made do with what they had with the technology of the day, and the morphing was groundbreaking.
Right.
I thought that looked pretty decent.
Yeah.
Compared to some of the other stuff.
I mean, the troll that he kicked into the water, and
Yeah.
it grew into that two-headed monster. I thought that wasn't bad. The two-headed monster
Yeah.
wasn't bad
that
for.
was a little puppet like this size, like shot on a and then superimposed, I guess.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of crazy to think that they did all that.
Yes. For its time, yeah. Nowadays, if we try to pass a film with that type of CGI, it would get laughed out of the theater.
Right.
But
Yeah.
given when it was made and the cutting edge technology it had available at the time, overall, my opinion, it's aged very well.
Oh yeah, I mean I enjoyed watching it.
I mean, other than, like I said, some of the CGI, like Val Kilmer trying to fight the monster, and
Yeah.
you can tell that's just very poor, by today's standards, poor CGI.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think of Val? Do you like him in this movie?
He wasn't bad.
Yeah.
They screened John Cusack for the role, but I really think Val Kilmer was the one. I think just some of the stuff they wrote in made him look silly, like flipping the sword and looking, and falling. The snowball scene
Yeah.
where he's kind of a goof.
Yeah.
That I don't know.
Some
I mean,
of his sword fighting wasn't super impressive.
yeah. I mean, yeah.
But Willow's like, oh my gosh, he is the greatest swordsman.
Yeah.
It's kind of like,
If that was the greatest one, I'd hate to see the worst one.
yeah. Siskel and Ebert gave it 2 thumbs down when it came out.
Really?
Really?
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, I don't see it as 2 thumbs down.
Right.
yeah, I mean, it's not the worst thing I've ever seen.
It's got a good story. I thought the actors, lined up pretty well.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I really, the princess, I thought she played and did an excellent job. She looked serious when she had to. She,
The little love story with her and Val
Mhm.
Kilmer's character, pretty entertaining.
I thought
Because he gets hit in the face with that fairy dust that makes him.
Oh
mouth
yeah,
crazy.
gush all over her. Yeah.
Yeah. Then later she's like, well, "What about all that stuff you were saying last night? I'm your star and your moons." He's like, yeah, I don't know. It wore off or something. Now, Joe? Would you watch this with your kid, or do you think it's a little edgy? For a 5-year-old?
It's funny that you bring it up. I actually was thinking about that when I was watching it, and other than the monsters at the end,
Blowing up. Their
well,
heads
not
blowing
even blown up. I think Sadie's kind of timid,
up.
and that stuff may kind of scare her, just the looks of the monsters. But overall, other than that,
I mean, maybe the troll turning into like the brain-like substance.
Yeah.
And that was kind of, for a 5-year-old that might be a little
Yeah.
much. But I mean,
But overall, when I was watching it, I was like, this would be a great family film to sit down
Mhm.
and watch and not have to worry of the content. Now, I was getting a little concerned when the old lady finally turned back into a human. I thought, so help me, if I see too much of Grandma, I'm done.
Oh boy. Yeah, because they kind of show Willow's face because she
Yeah.
has just been transformed back and she's naked. They go to his face and he's like, he runs and grabs a blanket. Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, I'm not too hip on the Grandma idea. Why couldn't they find somebody a little younger? But that's just me.
No, it's an older
She's a sorceress.
sorceress. Yeah.
Oh man.
Well, well, she hasn't found anti-aging magic. Is all I can say.
There is a scene that made me laugh when basically they're way up in the mountains on this snowy peak, and they're prisoners to the evil people, the bad army guys, and they escape and jump on, like I said before, the shield and use it as a sled to slide down the mountain. There's a section right before now. Val Kilmer's character has fallen off, and it's just Willow, and it's clearly a dummy. Like there's a section where it's like so stiff, and it's just a dummy they put on this sled, and they like shot it down the hill.
Yeah.
I'd never noticed that before, but I was like, wow, that doesn't look real at all. That section.
Couldn't they have paid somebody to ride that sled down through there? Just that $30 million. Surely you throw enough cash at somebody, they'll be like, "Yeah, I'll ride that."
Oh well, yeah.
In this
now-
day and age, definitely.
Oh yeah, $50 and it's sold, and as long as they get the YouTube rights to it, they'll do it.
Yeah.
Now I did find this interesting. So the box office the movie didn't go as well in the box office as expected. Of course, we talked about the heavy hitter competition it had that weekend.
Rambo 3.
So George Lucas continued Willow's story in books rather than movie sequels.
Mm-hmm.
So the 3 books are collectively known as the Chronicles of the Shadow War, and share a writer's credit with Chris Claremont and Lucas. They are Shadow Moon, which is in 1995, Shadow Dawn in 1996, and Shadow Star in 2000. So my question is, why can't they do other movies like that and just save us the burden of having to deal with these sequels nonsense, aka Mad Max?
Justin, they slamming you, man.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. I don't know. That's a good question. Somebody somewhere is like, no, time out. These are good ideas.
Yeah.
They get 2 thumbs down.
Yeah.
Keep an eye out on Disney Plus, Joe. There's a TV series in 2022 based on Willow coming.
What? No way. Rehashing Willow.
Maybe not TV, but a series, you know.
30 some years later.
Yeah.
That's funny. Who goes back and looks at these things?
That seems a little desperate to me.
Well, I mean, I don't know. If you look at it, though, it's got all the right ingredients because
Right.
it wraps up fairy tales with, several subplots. It's an easy one to turn into anything. I mean,
Well, and
Snow White. This is Snow White. And then what was the other? Man, there's another one I'm missing. One of the fairy tales that has the bad queen, and the princess has to fight her way back through and have a battle. Oh shoot! Even as much as 101 Dalmatians. I mean,
Yeah.
it kind of fits right in there.
Well, okay, so 101 Dalmatians is a perfect. They just did the prequel spin-off of it with
Yeah.
Cruella.
Mm-hmm.
There we go.
Yep.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's one of those stories that you can turn into anything,
Yeah.
and it'll fit right in the mold of something that's already popular.
So I'm a little surprised, but I'm not shocked. I mean, although I'm afraid with today's culture as it is, that they take a solid movie like this and water it down to garbage.
Oh yeah.
But this
happens,
would be a movie that you could easily turn into a series, especially take all
Yes.
4 books and make it possible.
Mhm.
But the way cancel culture is now, I'm afraid they'll just water it down into garbage.
Look at Ghostbusters.
And I was disappointed because I'm a huge fan of Melissa
McCarthy?
Yes, I'm a
Mhm.
huge fan of her work.
Yeah, I think the best thing to come out of that was the guy that played Thor. That was the male secretary, who was a real
I didn't see
knucklehead
that.
in it.
Yeah.
Don't waste your time. I mean, there's some one-liners here or there that's worth watching, but the rest of it's a real disservice to a remake of Ghostbusters, in my opinion. But I'm old school, so
2 Academy Award nominations for sound effects editing and visual effects, lost to Who Framed Roger Rabbit on both of those.
Oh wow.
Interesting. I think Roger Rabbit was mostly a cartoon, right?
Yeah.
It was an intermix cartoon and real world.
Yeah.
But
Huh. Interesting.
in both cases, ILM, did the stuff for both of those, so they were going to win either way. Industrial Light Magic was George Lucas's company.
Yes,
And I think he sold it now. What became Pixar? Or
I think
something
so. Yeah,
like that? He sold it for
because that's when
pennies on the dollar for what it's worth.
that's
now.
because he lost his shirt on Mad Max. No, I'll take it back. No, I'm
Something,
sorry.
He was hard up and
Yeah,
sold
it was
and now it's-
Howard the Duck. He lost that.
Yeah.
He lost
Thinking of
Pixar on. Yeah, he had to sell Pixar after Howard the Duck.
I understand. That makes complete
mean-
sense.
sold it for millions and it's worth billions, basically.
Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah, he sold Pixar to recoup Howard the Duck.
Wow.
But
Thanks, Howard.
It's hard to, yeah. Howard the Duck just ruined everything. It's hard to imagine George Lucas having to sell anything because he was in a bad way.
Yeah,
I
it's
mean,
crazy.
it's
crazy to think he would lose money on anything.
Well, I just mean he's such a wonderful storyteller
Yes.
and has such great things in his pockets, as far as Star Wars and everything. E.T.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, Howard the Duck submarine me, so now I got to sell something. I mean, how does that happen?
Yeah, because he even had the Indiana Jones
Oh,
series.
really? Yeah, Indiana Jones. That's what I mean. My gosh. How does one movie doing that wrong?
Well, and how could
And
he
it is
do
Howard
one?
the Duck,
Well,
but-
yeah, but how could he? So here's something else to think about. How could he do Howard the Duck so wrong?
Yeah,
Well, no, and I'm
things
being,
get away from you.
I'm being serious. So we're talking about how can he lose money? Well, how could he also?
Do something that horrible.
Yeah.
I guess. I mean, I kind of took it when we reviewed it.
I mean,
it
what
was-
did he have a drug problem at this point in his life, or?
I kind of took it as it was kind of just one of those spoof things that he and his buddy were doing just to goof off,
Well,
and it turned into that.
it looked good on paper.
Well, yeah, I got bored and was like, hey, let's have some fun here and check this out. And then next thing you know, I got to sell my company and call it Pixar and lose billions.
Now, when it came out in May in 1988, I mean, the opening weekends, it was the number one film in the country, 8 million. But then it just kind of tapered off. It didn't, maybe word got out. Don't watch it. Don't go see it.
I don't see how. I mean, it's not that bad. I didn't
Yeah.
think.
Well, Dave, I want to hear your breakdown a little bit because you usually have some pretty good detailed breakdowns.
Well,
What were your thoughts?
I saw in my mind as I watched through it, it was the blend of all the other stories that all got thrown into one. You know, it's a mixing bowl of stories, and you know, I like Val Kilmer. I thought he was, you know, he's just rogue enough and or roguish enough to pull off the character. I thought the princess was, you know, she was pretty, she was intriguing, she was competent, you know, and then the bad queen, I thought she nailed it. She looked vicious. She looked like the type that would just, you know, tear into you, you know, and then the good sorceress, I thought she looked old and wise and did a good job, you know, and all the little people I thought were pretty interesting. You know, even the bully one was bigger than everybody else. So I thought they casted it real well.
Yeah.
You know, so that's normally something that I pick apart as, you know, all right, could this person, and I learned that from you, Joe, you know, could this person have been cast better? But I thought for this one they did a pretty good job.
Yeah,
I wasn't like, hey, somebody else should have filled that role. At least as far as I know. Now you guys usually throw a ringer at me, and I'm like, oh yeah, that could have been different. But for this movie, I don't know that could be the case. So is that something?
Yeah.
Did you guys see anybody that you're like, this should have been a different person?
Justin?
I mean, even Eric the Good, you know, the captain, army captain.
Yeah.
You know, shoot, I thought he was spot on.
Yeah.
He looked like a Boy Scout.
Yeah.
So many different characters here that they were able to find the right look for. Like
Yeah.
you said, there's a queen that looks one way and Eric the Good. I mean, they fit their roles.
Yeah,
pretty
and the
well.
names were pretty spot on, like Mad Mardigan. I mean, he was mad. You
Yeah.
know, that's what made him funny. You know, and Bad Morga, she was bad. Bad to the bone. You know what I mean? And so those kind of things kind of fit, you know, Willow Offgood. You know, that's a great name for a little, you know. And because it kind of reminded me of The Hobbit a little bit, you know. You kind of look at that and you're like Frodo and Bilbo.
Yeah.
You know, they're named funny little
It's
cute
kind of
names.
funny how Willow, he sees the baby and he's like, just
Don't-
push it down the
Yeah,
river.
yeah, push it on down. Not our problem. Don't touch it.
He's like, I refuse for anyone in this family to fall in love with that baby. And his wife is like carrying it away like, oh, baby.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like,
It's a
I'll
baby.
let me ignore.
Yeah,
Yeah, make that somebody else's problem. Kick it.
it should float on down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wish I had something to throw out there just for
So that-
conversation with somebody that you could
Right.
sub in, but I can't
But
think.
that's how I came away with this one. I was like, man, it was cast really well. And, you know, and I noticed the CGI stuff, but I wasn't bothered by it. I was like,
Right.
it's 1980s.
Yeah.
You know, I don't think it affected the movie that much in a negative way. Like you said, you could kind of see the green screen and some of the pixies, but
Was
you
it
know.
tight enough? You think they could have edited it down a little bit, get it under 2 hours?
I mean, it's a big story. They rolled so many stories into one. How do you know, what do you cut out that doesn't make sense? You know, and some of it was already cut out. You know, in the time, like you mentioned, Justin, the timeline was kind of off. So, but I
A little
mean,
bit, yeah.
back then with a baby, how much could you get away with? You know, newborn would be super hard to
The
deal
baby
with.
was a pretty good actor. She did a lot of cool face
Yeah,
gestures and stuff.
yeah.
Expressions.
But that's what I mean. You need an older baby for that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
What'd you think of the pig scene where the evil witch lady turns everybody, all the army into pigs?
yeah. I thought it was kind of neat.
Yeah.
Now that I could see, Joe, you know, you're talking about a 5-year-old getting scared. That was kind of
Yeah.
freaky because they,
Yeah.
you know, it shows them their feet turning into hooves and it's kind of sweaty and gross looking and, you know,
Yeah.
their faces transforming, and now once they're in the pigs, then it's kind of cute because they're
The two little piglets.
running around. Yeah, two
Yeah.
little ones, running around oinking.
Now, I did find this about the pigs.
Mm-hmm.
So, a large group of the pigs outside the castle were continuously trying to have fun. So they had to have buckets of water on hand to keep throwing at the pigs to keep them separated.
Yeah, I could see that.
Have fun. Okay. I didn't quite know what you're talking about. Now I do. Okay.
I'm gonna say I'm trying to keep it family friendly here,
Oh,
Justin.
boy.
We got a family friendly movie, so I'm trying to keep as family friendly
You
as
know,
possible.
the one
here.
fact Joe looks up. Attaboy, Joe.
Hey, that was just in that list on IMDb as I was scrolling through last night. So you're welcome.
What did you think of the action, Joe? Like the fire and the explosions were up to your standards?
I'm telling you guys have ruined me on my explosive movies. I have to actually find good movies now. I'm starting to enjoy movies that don't have explosions. That you guys are ruining me here.
Well, I gotta say, when I saw the sword went through the troll monster's head and it blew its own head up trying to blow fire, I was like, "That's for Joe."
Okay, now what I don't understand.
Joe
is,
just cheered. He's like, "Yes."
Finally.
Yeah, but here's what killed it is when Mad Mortican gets in that fight and stabs the one monster and he still's fighting with him, so then he stabs it again with the second sword. It's like, really? It took two swords all the way through to actually kill the guy?
Yeah.
And I'm
That was kind of, I mean, for a kid, that's a little violent too. That
Yeah.
stepping on the sword and shoving into him.
Well, you know, and I forgot about that guy. That guy looked the part.
Yeah,
Holy cow, the skull mask.
Skull guy.
well, now I looked at Skull Mask and from a distance I thought it was a Planet of the Apes mask. Just the way the side headpiece fell from a distance, to me it looked like a Planet of the Apes.
General Kale,
Yeah.
played by Pat Roach.
Pat Roach, yeah. I was just looking the
English
same thing.
actor.
It's like, man, did he ever look the part?
He appeared in Indiana Jones.
Really?
Interesting.
Yeah, Raiders of the Lost Ark, Temple of Dooms.
Now, one of the Indiana Jones, I don't really know much about, but you guys might be able to fill in. There's a scene at the very end of one of them where, like, a skull-type mummy person, their face, like, changes a bunch, and he's, like, grabbing this girl, and Indiana Jones runs in and hits him. Basically, well, they use that same morphing technology from Willow to make that effect of, like, this skull face changing into different shots. I don't know. That was just one of the things I saw in the special features. And they also said that, that morphing thing, a couple people caught wind of it, and then it started showing up in a lot of movies, and it got kind of played out and cheesy after a while. That a lot of different movies were trying to use that same thing.
So, Justin, you said you watched the bonus footage after the end.
Yep, some deleted scenes and some footage behind the scenes and all that.
After watching the bonus features, did that make you appreciate the movie more? No, and actually see the hard work
Right.
that it had to take to make this movie possible. Did you
Oh, yeah.
appreciate it more? And it's going,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah, because they were saying, essentially, they were at the very forefront. There wasn't anything to look to they were pretty much just problem solvers. Like, here's what the story says, that Willow puts out his wand and she changes into different forms, and they had to just put their heads together, and they were used to some puppets and different things they filmed in different ways to make that. Like, the ostrich is a puppet when it changes from a goat to an ostrich.
Really?
That was a puppet that looks like a goat, but you could, like, stretch
Really?
its neck out, so they got a shot of puppeteers doing that whole thing,
Oh, wow.
like making them stand up and turn into an ostrich.
Huh.
And then the computer work begins once you get, like, those things to work with. But, yeah. Yeah, and just certain amount of, back then you couldn't rely on CG as much, so there were some things that they were using a lot of smoke and fire and rain and all that stuff.
So, let me ask this, kind of turn direction here.
Mm-hmm.
Was there anything that surprised you in the story? Like, is there any part of it you're like, well, I didn't see that coming?
Not really.
Not me, because
Yeah, I
I've
mean,
seen it so many
the only
times.
thing I would think is that, like when they hid the armory under the the tents, you know,
yeah.
dug under the ground.
Yeah.
That was kind of the only part I was like, oh, okay, that's pretty clever.
Mhm.
Didn't see that coming. Didn't know how they're going to get in the castle. So, you know, a little bit of, you know, Willow's plan.
Yep.
And then when he disappeared the baby at the end in the castle, I mean, that was, yep.
Yeah.
Nice callback to the very
Yeah.
beginning.
Yeah.
Use your magic, Willow.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Anything else you want to cover?
I don't know. We ready to rate this baby up?
I am if you guys are.
Let's use the bucket system.
All right, Joe. Go ahead, lay it on me.
All right, so you want to know what my rating is?
Can I guess?
Sure.
Overflowing small.
Really?
Okay, Dave, what do you think?
I'm thinking Joe's at least a medium.
Okay.
It's a good story.
So
It had a head blow up. There was an explosion.
So again,
It's like high-speed chase too. He likes those
yeah.
on a wagon.
Yeah. So again, going into this, this type of movie is not my genre movie that I watch to enjoy. So I had some hesitation going in, but again, Justin was giving this movie high praise, and
Well, he watched it growing up. You can't kill his hopes as a childhood movie. I mean,
well, the more we do this, I find that Justin and I, our movie tastes are there's a lot of parallels.
oh boy.
So, but for some reason, I still had hesitation on this one because this genre movie is just not something I'm into. So, but giving that I was still entertained, that I wasn't sitting there watching the clock go by going, when's this going to be over with? I have to give this one a solid medium.
Oh.
Nice.
Dave's definitely more in tune. He knows what Joe's rating's going to be.
I know Joe.
I'm usually a little off on those. Wow, all right. But if it were 3 hours, it'd be small for sure, right?
Oh, at best.
Possibly burned.
Yeah.
Yeah. Burn that baby down.
I'd have to watch Howard the Duck to get that taste out of my mouth.
Oh, man.
Oh boy. So I was interested. I'm trying to look up General Kale's mask. That's a kind of crazy mask.
Kind of a He-Man type of thing, Skeletor look to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that part where he gets like hit with the sword in the mask and it cracks.
Cracks it.
Kind of cool.
Yeah. Interesting.
Right.
Dave, you want to go last or?
No, I can go.
Okay.
I'm a solid medium on this
Yeah.
one. You know, it's got like I said, my part of it has 8 or 9 different stories kind of mashed into one. I thought the actors were spot on as far as who they casted.
Yeah.
You know, the story's interesting enough for an 80s film. You know, I got it. So yeah, solid medium for me. You know, I think I could tell somebody if they said, hey, you know, I saw this Willow thing. Is it worth watching? I'd be like, yeah, you know, worth watching. Not going to blow your socks off, you know. But yeah, good solid story, good solid movie to watch with your kids. If they're, I don't know, what age appropriate do you feel would be okay? I know we said 5 is a little young,
Yeah, I would
so
think
like,
a little older than 5.
like maybe 7 to
Yeah.
12 would be entertained by
Yeah, I was
this.
gonna say 7 or 8 at least.
Yeah.
Should have no problem.
Right, so 7 to 12-year-olds would probably like it. It's a little bit of a fairy tale, a little bit of action,
Oh yeah.
you know. So yeah, solid medium in my book.
Yeah, my sister and I, we would watch this on a regular basis, maybe 5 times a year or something. So I've probably seen this 8 or 10 times, and you know, going back to it, no big surprises for the most part. The storyline, the way I remembered it, with a couple things here and there, it was kind of like, can we get these brownies out of here for a while? They're kind of slowing the whole thing down.
Yeah.
Because you have to stop and they have to have a little goofy moment. And Dave, like you said, I'd never really noticed that. Maybe as a kid, I didn't think it was super funny that Val Kilmer fell down in the snow, but I could definitely see watching it for the first time being like, that was unnecessary. And I think, yeah, rewatching it all these years later, definitely some of the gags stood out a little bit more, but then there were definitely some moments where I was like, that was pretty funny, even though it was clearly a gag. I kind of got a kick out of it. And overall, I agree with you, Dave. All these characters cast well, and I thought Willow carried the movie got nice interplay between him and Val Kilmer's character, which kept it moving along for the most part. And the evil princess that turns good, I thought was a good. She did well
Yeah.
in that role, and yeah, I think coming to this, had never seen it before. I'd probably be right with you guys, but all the nostalgia with it, it definitely bumps it up to a medium. I mean, a large. Sorry,
Ooh,
from a
going
medium.
for a
Wow.
large.
Yeah, I'm gonna go large on this one. There wasn't
Nostalgia
anything-
kicks in.
Wasn't anything in here that I looked at and saw and said, "Wow, that was super lame." I
Yeah.
must have been as a kid thinking that was good, but it wasn't. I think for the most part it held up for
Yeah.
1988. And
You know, I
yeah,
kind of agree with that. I'll change mine to overflowing medium because after you talk me into that.
okay.
Because you're right, there isn't a negative.
Nothing
Yeah.
terrible in this one.
No, other than a couple flops on the one-liners and stuff.
Mhm.
Not really a negative. All right, overflowing medium for mine.
Okay.
Change me
All
up
right.
there.
So-
There it is, folks.
But I have to say, Justin, I'm shocked on your rating.
Uh,
Well, Justin, I figured you would go full on mop bucket because this was your favorite movie growing up. So you kind of hold that special place in your memory that as one of your all-time favorites. And I had to applaud you on this that you was able to look at it this time with just a lot like we look at all the movies, just a critical view.
yeah.
And didn't, as I say, look at it with rose-colored glasses
Right.
of
Yeah.
this is my favorite movie, so it's hard for me to critique it
Yeah.
or find the flaws and find the problems with it.
I agree with you, Joe, but I think I took it from my own perspective. When we critique these movies, it changes. You're no longer able to romanticize them, if it makes sense.
Yes.
You
Well,
know what I mean?
right, but there,
Because of this role we're taking on.
right, but
But boy, it's hard.
yeah, because I mean, we can all, I mean,
Vision
could be-
Quest is my all-time favorite. When I watched it as a critic, I was like, crap.
Yeah, see that's the thing
The
is,
shine kind of wore off a little bit. Crap.
yeah, that's the thing. We all have movies that we
Yeah.
hold in our own high regard, and
Yours is Howard the Duck.
and it, and it's hard
It's hard, Joe.
to look at it
So
with
hard.
and actually look at it for what it truly is,
Yeah,
instead of going, this is my favorite movie. I was always entertained.
yeah.
So now I'm
Are
going
you
to ask.
not entertained?
So I'm going to ask you guys this:
That's from Gladiator, by the way.
watching our, going through this list of favorite movies, some of these you hold near and dear to your heart. Now that you've watched them and critiqued them, are you able to go back and watch them again for entertainment purposes to just enjoy it?
Oh yeah, I was entertained in this one, and as an adult compared to a kid, some of the stuff you were laughing at it a little bit more than you were laughing with it back then.
Right.
Back then, I was like, that was funny, and now I'm kind of like, like the wagon stuff, like some of this, the high-speed chase on a wagon. Some of it I was kind of laughing at it a little bit, but I was totally entertained, and yeah. But I'm right there with you, Joe. I'm not a fantasy guy. That's not the type of movie. Like, if there's gonna be a mop bucket movie, for the most part, something like this isn't quite gonna get there for me. I'm more
Yeah.
into an actual, real world, serious type of movie. And my
Ooh,
sister kind of went.
is this a leader into your next pick?
No, not necessarily. My sister stuck with it though. I mean, she's like one of those. I love Star Wars, and I don't love Star Wars. I'm just like, it's okay. Like,
Star Wars is pretty amazing.
Yeah.
She's going to ride and die by the sword. She's not going to.
So she's maybe a little more fantasy minded than I am. So that's gonna keep something like this out of my bucket territory for me, just because I don't think, I don't know, the magic and all that stuff takes a little bit away from me. I'd rather see something well done.
Something more you
based
associate.
on
You
real
could,
life. Yep.
associate with or.
So yeah, maybe this is one of those exceptions. This was one that I liked as a kid, but it didn't carry over into a lifetime of loving fantasy type stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
But still, I mean, this has to say something about this movie that it is receiving such high ratings from the three of us.
Mm-hmm.
One of us is wouldn't watch this genre, wouldn't pay money to go
Right.
see this,
Right.
and Justin seeing it, going back and looking at it, critiquing it as an adult, and still holding in such high regard, has to say something about how well this movie has stood up to the test of time and how well it was written and played out.
Yeah, for sure.
You don't see stuff like this really as much anymore.
No.
I think. Just look, that mix of action and fantasy and whimsicalness to it. Maybe you get more one or the other. All those things nowadays. I'd be interested in a kid in 2021. What would they think of this movie? Would they be entertained at all? Would an 8-year-old care? Or would they be like, "This is weird"?
Yeah, take a kid that loves the Hobbit and the Lord of the Rings series and say, watch this and see what they think.
Yeah. Yeah, that's my daughter's reading The Hobbit right now, so I'm gonna be interested to see.
Ooh,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yes.
Bilbo just met shoot, my precious. Shoot, starts with a G. Daggone it.
Yeah. Gollum. And,
Gollum. Just met
Yeah.
Gollum. Yeah.
Mhm.
I was like, ooh, getting nice spicy. Here we go. But anyway. Well, Justin, do you have your pick for next
well,
week?
I've got some to throw out there and get your guys' thoughts on.
Ooh.
I'm pretty sure this one's going to get shot down because we don't want to continue this theme, but just in reading reviews on Willow, one person said, there's so many better fantasy movies out there from this time period. For example, Labyrinth with David Bowie. So I'm going to throw that out there.
Yeah.
Okay, we've done
And you
a
got
number
absolutely no reaction.
a number of National Lampoon movies we reviewed on this podcast. There is a comedy, which maybe you guys have seen. Maybe it's no good. A Futile and Stupid Gesture is basically a comedy that is kind of based on the true story of the creation of the National Lampoon.
And what's it called?
A Futile and Stupid Gesture.
I've never even heard of that.
No.
Okay.
Magnolia from 1999. You seen that one, Dave?
Magnolia?
Yep. Tom Cruise, Philip Seymour Hoffman, Julianne Moore.
I think so. Tom Cruise, yeah. That's kind of freaky.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure. Let me look and see the. Yeah. Kind of like a psychological.
Well, I'm gonna throw this out there. Should we get a comedy back in the mix? Any thoughts on that?
It's your pick. You get whatever you want in there.
Where do you?
All I know is my next one's a home run, so you better hold on to your
Here we
britches.
go again.
I'm full of home runs here.
Full of something. I don't know if you want to call it home runs.
You know it's true. Anyway.
Yeah, to be honest, I came in a little unprepared for this show.
Well, that's all right. You can decide later.
Yeah, I might have to do that. If none of those two don't jump out at you guys.
So a futile and stupid gesture.
I'm a little hesitant on that one.
Really?
Some of the ratings are pretty bad, but
I'm gonna say, Justin, I can't give you too much grief about it. You have some pretty high rated movies, so I can't really give you too much.
I mean, it's always interesting.
yeah, let's leave it open ended for now.
Okay.
Okay.
I think that's the safest
So
bet.
for the fans out there, you have to wait and see.
Yep.
Like I say, I'm looking at the previews of a futile and stupid gesture, and it has me intrigued.
Okay.
And then Magnolia, the trailer has me intrigued as well. So Justin,
Magnolia's kind of freaky.
freaky as in.
It's a psychodrama, like a thriller twist type deal.
So Justin, I think in my book, there's two good choices just based on the previews, but as we've seen before, previews can either make or break a movie. So.
Yep.
The Room. Okay.
All right, stay tuned, everybody.
Stay tuned. There you go.
Stay on-
Justin
keep
and
me
his
on your toes.
mysterious pick to be named later.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and I didn't hear back from my sister, but maybe next show we can revisit for just a moment
Rehash a
Yeah.
little bit.
what
Yeah.
she thought if it held up for her or not.
Cool.
Willow, that is.
Willow. we'll be back next week. Somebody close this jobby out.
All right. So for more news and reviews, be sure to visit our website at beentherewatchthat.com. Follow us on social media. We're on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter at BTWTPod. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast. Been There, Watch That. We're on all the major podcast platforms. And leave us a 5-star review. And all of our episodes are hosted by Anchor.fm.
All right. Been there, watched out. Been there, watched that. From myself, Joe, and Justin, after reviewing Willow, we'll be back next week for Justin's surprise pick.
Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun. And more cool things. Been there, watch that. We'll see you all next week.